Hey guys, what's up? It's Coach Frank here from the Puckin Sports Network, and we're bringing you the Puckin Pod Mailbag Trade Deadline Edition. I'm flying solo today as I'm back from vacation. Well, not really vacation, but work-related vacation. But hat tip to the boys for putting on the episode this week. It was an awesome episode. Got a little everything, lots going on in the NFL, lots going on in the NHL. But here we are. It's the Friday before trade deadline, and the week has been pretty action packed with some moves already. As early as late as today, Brandon Hagel from the Blackhawks gets sent to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a boatload, including 2 first-round draft picks. And earlier on, I believe it was Wednesday, Ben Chiarot is dealt to the Florida Panthers, both divisional teams in the Leaf division, in the Atlantic division. So lots of reaction there. Obviously, this drives up the prices for rentals. Well, Hagel's not a rental, but just in terms of that, just the price for these guys are just astronomical and through the roof. So Kyle Dubas has some definite work ahead of him. So I guess quickly before that, I just want to go over. I'm getting a lot of likes and thumbs up on the Erik Kallgren call. Listen, it it wasn't a prediction. It was more, and for you guys, just to put it in context, a few episodes ago on one of our segments we call "Wanna Bet," we throw out some scenarios, likely scenarios. And the guys bet on the likeliness of it happening. And I've been maintaining the fact that the issue with the Leafs goaltending, it would be nice to see what they have in the system before going out and getting a goaltender. So I kind of put it out there that what happened if or what would the chances be if a guy like Wall or Kallgren turns out to be this year's Matt Murray or Jordan Binnington, and gets hot after about 10, 15 games, and who knows, takes them into the playoffs. I'm not saying it's the answer, but I'm always the one to say before you go out and get a stopgap, might be good to see what you got in the system. So I'm giving myself, or people give myself the Barry Horowitz tap on the back. So a good call, Coach Frank, and I do get right once in a while. So I'm just happy that Kallgren's putting on a show, and let's see if we can keep it going. I think he's been playing very sound, very quiet in the net. He's got a great demeanor, perfect for what this team needs, and they're playing great in front of him. So really thrilled with that. And listen, I hope Joseph Wall's going to do the same. So we provide some options, going into next year as well. So, all right. I did choose what we're going to do. I have some questions that were sent to us, DM to us on Twitter. Thank you guys, and on Instagram. I appreciate it. I can't go through them all. I just want to do a couple because I want to keep this video short. But I'm going to go through a couple questions, and I'm going to throw some predictions out at the deadline. The boys wanted me to do that because last year I went 5 for 5. Obviously, it didn't work out too well, but I did pretty good last year, so I'll throw out a couple predictions this year. Maybe not as exciting, but let's look at some long shots as well that could come, because Dubas does surprise us here and there. So let's get to the questions. This one's from @TOBud67 forever. What is the most pressing need at the deadline, and who is the main target? Well, it's a pretty general question, but depending on who you are, a lot of answers. I'm going to go with the defense. I think it stops and starts with defense. Always has been, always will be. I look at Jake Muzzin as kind of their own rental. I don't know what the health is going to be, but he's going to be back in the lineup when he gets back, probably on the third pairing, which is where he should be. But just looking at the pairings on how they've been changed, I think you have a guy like Eli Labushkin now playing in the first pairing now with Riley, which is great. He may not be a top pairing guy, your model top pair, but he did have some experience back in Arizona playing with Chychrun on the top pairing, so he can probably give you some valuable minutes in the 16 to 18 minute range, which is great. But I think the way they've changed these pairings, as Brody as the new kind of safety net to Justin Hall, it's working, right? You don't really have your second and third pair per se, because even Sandy and Liljegren play pretty good. As long as they they stick to this idea of keeping the net clean for Kallgren and or Mrazek, which I really hope he doesn't play anytime soon. But keeping the boxing guys out from the point, playing a little bit more stingy back there in front of the net in the corners. I think you need another guy, another Labushkin type guy as the target. A top four would be great, but they're not really out there. And judging from the price, I don't see Dubas doing it. He already said first round picks were off the table for rentals and top prospects, which I agree with. So, I'm going to stick with the defense because I also think defense leads to better goaltending, right? You cut down on the point blank chances. Obviously, your goaltending will be better. And with the emergence of Ondrej Kase, that's why I'm not saying a top six forward. I really like him on the second line. I've been an advocate for that for the longest time. I've seen him play in Anaheim. He's got the potential to score 20 goals. So I think he'd slot in nicely with that second line, whoever it will be. But I think, that's the reason why you don't have to shell out for a top six player. So thanks for the question. The other next one comes from @DipsyDoodle_39. What's more important? I like this question. This is one that I wanted to talk to the boys about, but what's more important for this team, keeping the first line together or getting the second line going? This is a great question. I would say for sure, for me, it's the second line. A lot of people thought that Austin Matthews suspension was going to be trouble. And sure enough, they went 2-0 without Austin Matthews. And at the same time, we got John Tavares going. And that was key, especially going into the playoffs. There's really not a lot of depth at center. And you're probably saying, David Kampf, but David Kampf is not an offensive centerman. He is a pure third line defensive specialist on some teams' fourth line. He cannot play 16, 17 minutes as your second line center. It's not going to happen. Kerfoot did admirable in the last couple of games. But to me, again, not a guy I want relying on secondary scoring. Nice player, but just not that guy for me. So in the event, that God forbid there's another injury or suspension, top six, getting that Tavares line is key. I think it showed that obviously Bunting and Marner can play with anybody, and just having Tavares slot in there for me is important. I also think, that those lines should be, kind of stay as is, even though practice would tell you otherwise. But, trying to find that winger to play with Tavares on that second line is just going to be so important for playoffs, especially for matchups. I'm hoping Kasha is the answer there, as I previously mentioned. But we got to get Nylander going too. I think he's not been himself for a while now. It is concerning to me, but credit to him. He was their best forward last year in the playoffs. So let's hope he gets it going by that time. But if you have two lines going, again, especially in matchups, it looks like you might start on the road if they don't, get that first seed or home ice advantage in the as the second seed. Line matches are going to be important, and that second line will be key to their success. So that's why I'm saying that first line is money. We know it's been money for most of the year, and that's why I would have Bunting and Marner down with Tavares, but and then have Kasha and Nylander with Matthews. But that's just me. I'm actually curious. I'm going to put that out on the Twitter poll when we're done here, because I think that's a great question. But that's where I'm going with that. So, lastly, before Matthew's suspension, the first line was playing averaging 23 minutes a game, and the second line was averaging 16 minutes. Not enough from your second line. That's too. You're relying too much on your top line, and that wasn't a good recipe for success. So, in hindsight, this suspension could have been a saving grace for this team. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. Okay, the last question. Our buddy at Wolf Stanson. Is there a name at each position of need that could be available that no one is thinking of, or a long shot that could surprise? I think, listen, we all read the names that are out there on Twitter from your insiders and all of that. I'm not going to go through those. You guys have seen them all. So that's why I kind of like this question, as names that may not, that are out there but maybe we haven't heard of, or unlikely moving, but there's a small little percentage that could. So I'll give a couple names out at each position. I'd love to bring Connor Brown back. I think that's a guy that should never been dealt, but I understood the position as to why they dealt him. He was in the he was in the need for a bump up in salary, which he got from Ottawa, and well deserved. I think that's a guy, a prototypical guy who can come in, play on your second line, give you some good 5-on-5 minutes, some good scoring. Obviously, he PKs, one of the best penalty killers in the league, which would already add to a great penalty kill. So that's a guy I'd love to see. I'm not sure Ottawa parts with him, but I've kind of heard rumblings there. I think he's got some term left on his contract. So another guy, pie in the sky. But if Chicago's going to start doing it, oh man, would I love to get my hands on Alex DeBrincat. He would probably command a haul. I hope it was Justin Hall, but no, I mean a haul. And that's the guy who I would probably, let go of a top prospector to Niemela, Nyes. Like DeBrincat is a phenomenal player, and who should have been drafted by the Leafs in, I believe, 2016 anyways, instead of Igor Korshkov. So that was a missed opportunity from us anyways. But anyways, he's a guy that I put out there that maybe Chicago would be willing to part with for the right price, but that's more of a summer deal because there's kind of rumblings with Hagel gone. This could be the start of a complete teardown by Chicago. The GM has already made it well known that they're in a rebuild, so could be guys like Kane going, who knows, but the DeBrincat is who I would definitely target there. On the defense, I'm going to go to the Seattle, but I'm not going for Giordano. I'm saying his partner, Adam Larson. I think this is a guy who would be a perfect addition to Toronto. I believe he's got a little bit more than like maybe 4.5 on his deal, quite a few years, but he's a prototypical stay-at-home defenseman, very solid on the back end. You can trust him, plays top-end minutes, block shots, hits, you name it. I don't know what Seattle's doing, to be quite honest with you. So I think anybody is open for business there. So that's probably a name that, Dubas is kind of maybe just checking in and say, hey, what's going on? What's the cost for Larson? So don't expect it, but there's that'll be a prototypical. Actually, he would probably be the definition of a top 4 type defenseman that I would target if I'm Dubas, a right-handed defenseman with term. The other guy is Nick Delorier from Anaheim. This guy's a tough customer. He's a not a flashy guy, but again goes back to that model of a defenseman who can fight, who can put the body on. He skates pretty decently. Not a big analytic guy, but again a guy who can provide some third line minutes. But again, a guy who could probably pair up with just Jake Muzzin and really provide that grit, that hard-nosed style that I was alluding to. And Anaheim's obviously in sell mode now. Hampus Lindholm, obviously. Raquel, Josh Manson went to Colorado. So he probably wouldn't cost a lot as well. So that's a guy that I'd look at. In goal, I really don't think they're going to make a move. I've been saying it for a while that Dubas is a pretty loyal guy. Now that we know it was an injury with Campbell, we'll see how the recovery goes. I do see him coming back. Don't know what they're going to do with Mrazek's contract. Like that is an albatross, especially if Kallgren keeps playing the way Kallgren, keeps playing the way he's playing. That's going to be an interesting situation. You don't want to carry 3 goalies. So I really hope they don't bring in, a David Riddick type move. Not sure how they do that with the Marlies. I believe Joseph Wall's hurt. But 2 names I'll throw out there. Anthony Stolarz from Anaheim. I think he's done a pretty admirable job in Anaheim, backing up John Gibson, especially when Gibson's been hurt. Played some time as a starter. Pretty reliable goalie, I'd say. So he'd be kind of like an insurance policy. Definitely not a starter, but a guy you can put up some decent numbers behind this Leaf team. And again, a name that's not out there, but if the Leafs have to go get a goalie, just even for next year, a guy who's playing the Canadian market, a guy who's pretty good as probably one of the best, if not the best 1B guy out there, is Jake Allen from Montreal. For me, a guy like that is a guy who I pair with Campbell moving forward. A guy who's playing a tandem, can start, can give you valuable games. He did fantastic for Montreal. last year. Let's not talk about this year because of the cluster that's going on over there. But I think he was a fantastic addition to Montreal. Makes decent, decent money. But I'm sure Montreal probably would like to get that off their books. But I think Ken Hughes came out saying he's not trading a goalie. It's a goalie carousel there again, but he's a guy that I'd definitely like to see Dubas inquire on. So there you go. There's some names that are long shots. Thanks. There was a few more questions, but I think those are the ones that were different, and I kind of want to get out there. So thanks, guys, and keep them coming. The trade deadline's on Monday. We're still going to throw some trades and scenarios out there. So please keep them coming, and I'll address them, or the guys will address them as best we can. So looking for an eventful weekend. So lastly, I'm going to throw my predictions out between now and Monday. Nothing flashy. I really don't think there's going to be a lot done. I hope I'm wrong. But honestly, I don't really think this team needs that much. They just need some stability, some confidence moving forward, which I hope has been given through Kallgren. Mark Giordano seems the obvious name. It's just, where there's smoke, there's fire. The guy wants to be here. Seattle's asking for a first. I don't see it. I think Dubas already said, I'm not giving you a first. Whether they give him a prospect or a guy like Nick Abruzzese, or they try to move a contract back like Travis Dermott with some prospects, or a high end, maybe like a second, that I could see. I hope it's not for a first. I still think Giordano becomes a Leaf, but I don't think it's for a first. If it's not him, the other guy I'd like to see that's attainable, probably Carson Soucy from Anaheim. So somebody, from Seattle. So obviously, I think one of the Seattle guys are might make their way, but I think it's obvious that it's going to be Giordano. I know the Rangers have inquired as well, but I don't think anybody's given a first for him. So I could be wrong, but I just don't think so. The other name out there I like, which I think Leafs are linked to, which I could see, is Jacob Middleton. Got one of the best mustaches in the league, I'll tell you that. So that's a guy's slow addition. But guy I think he's only making $750. Kind of came out of nowhere, playing top 4 minutes in San Jose. Leafs have been linked to him. Obviously, it's not going to cost a whole heck of a lot, even if it's a second and a mid-level prospect. That's a name I could see. So I'm going to throw Giordano and Jacob Middleton, not both, maybe just one of them, as an acquisition on the back end. Up front, I do think they make a move. I think the ideal guy for me to bring into this team is Artturi Lehkonen. Now, Montreal's probably asking what Hagel got, and their fan base is delusional anyways. So, they believe he's probably worth a first and a top end prospect and something else. So temper your expectations, but I think he's a perfect fit who can help a definite fourth line, and can play up in the third if, Engvall or Mikheyev just not playing great, who are incredible third line right now in terms of analytics and expected goals. Wow. Talk about an eye opener. So, and you guys know I'm the president of the Mikheyev fan club. So, but there's a guy that if injuries happen, he can move up in your lineup as well. So Montreal's probably asking a first, but if I'm Dubas, I could see that happening. I really could see Lehkonen as a perfect fit, even though I think he ends up on the Rangers. I just think he'd be a sneaky nice add for Dubas. So there's a guy I'll throw a long shot prediction. But at the end of the day, I think depth is where they're going to go. I think they're going to try to shore up that fourth line. You're already starting to see it with the fourth line. I believe today at practice it was Spezza, Robertson, and Kerfoot. Not a great not an ideal fourth line. A little bit of more speed and some scoring, but I just think come playoff time, Robertson won't be there, and they won't be going Simmons and Spezza. It's not working. It's just not a good fit. It's too slow. And I've been kind of really disappointed with Simmons this year, albeit from the fact that he's 1,000 games. I think Keith's starting to see it as well with the healthy scratches lately. So I'm looking at a guy like Chris Tierney from Ottawa. I think would be a perfect fit as well from a depth standpoint. He won't give you much in terms of output, but he'll give you some good fourth line minutes. I think he's a centerman, so I do think the Leafs grab a depth center in case there are injuries. Even though Kerfoot can play center, I think they go for more of a natural center for the fourth line. So I think that's the route they're going to go. So a guy like Chris Tierney, I wouldn't say maybe like Nick Paul, but I think those type of guys Tyler Mott would be nice, but I think that's just I think, again, Vancouver's probably asking too much, and well, they should. It's a seller's market right now, so that's my guy at depth. I think that's the type of guy they're going to go with. So again, the recap: I think they had a top 4-ish, 5-ish defenseman and a fourth line center. So guys, thanks for the questions again. We'll be posting this out there on the YouTube. We're at Puckin Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Coach Frank 18, so drop me a line as well. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know who do you think they're going to grab. Some predictions. Love to hear you guys. Keep them coming. Who do you think to grab? What the Leafs might do in terms of a trade, what it could look like. And it's been great. So keep an eye out there, guys, and enjoy the trade deadline. We'll break them all down next week. Enjoy.